Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and this is episode 1, where tonight we'll be doing our best to analyse the Man City and Norwich games. Sounds like fun. Talking about our form, should we be concerned, looking ahead, taking direction, questions and looking forward to our trip to Anfield on Sunday. And of course, we've got two of our regular pundits. One of them has sound, he's got lights. He's not had a haircut, though. Welcome to the show this evening to Tyler and Nocky, and thank you for joining us throughout the show this season so far. So, Tyler, you can start things off. It can't get any more miserable about talking about that Man City game, but I want you to give me your thoughts on that Man City game, pal.
Do I have to?
You absolutely do.
I tried to forget about it, so I'm just trying to record it out. I thought it was very naive, to be honest. Everyone's talking about how good De Bruyne was, and admittedly he was. But we basically gave him the freedom of Wolverhampton to play in and to do his stuff in. And they're a good side, aren't they? I think, Knocker, you were a bit more diplomatic when we were talking off air about how good they are and how you can't compete with them. But, we did compete with them a few months ago at their place. And for me, it was just, it could have been 10. And you sometimes joke and say, oh, it could have been 5 or 6. It genuinely could have been 10. And it was at the point where it was getting really embarrassing, I thought. There was no game plan. I didn't see what the tactics were. I didn't see what we were trying to do. We scored a lovely goal, to be fair. That was the highlight for me, probably. But I just thought it was not a naive performance against probably the best side in the country that will probably go on to win the league. And you can't give players of that quality that time and space. I'm just trying to get out of the system, really. It was that bad. And we talked on the previous podcast, do we have a bit of a go at them? Do we sit in? And for me, we didn't really do either. We weren't compact and tight, and we weren't really having a go. It was sort of a bit of a nothing performance. So, the word I used was naive. I thought we just let them have the freedom and do what they want to do to us, basically.
Yeah, I'm very much the same. I mean, when we equalised, I thought, here we go, bit of a chance here. But in football, you have to evolve and you have to learn quickly. And the fact that De Bruyne was in sort of a 10, just playing in front of the two holding midfielders, he was just floating around the middle. And again, he wasn't picked up again and again, and he ended up scoring 4 goals. Now, don't get me wrong, he's brilliant and he's world class, probably the most on form world class player on the planet at the moment. However, if you let him just do what he wants, he's going to embarrass you. And in the end, yes, they're world class, and I know us three debated it on the group chat, but you have to say though, as Tyler said, Knocker, it was naive, wasn't it? Yes, and I know they've spent billions and they're on another planet, and almost makes you feel, well, what's the point? Because we can't get near them. But Tyler again made a great point, because we almost stopped them at Man City, and it took a ridiculous penalty for them to beat us. Where's that team gone, Knocker?
I mean, I said at the time last week, I mean, you probably didn't hear me, obviously, but I said last week that I think that I think we needed to be a little bit nasty. We needed a couple of reducers going in early on, especially to the likes of De Bruyne, who can tear you apart. We were just very sort of. I think we were toying between the idea of having a go at them or just sitting off them, but we seemed to spend most of the game just sort of stargazing and just watching them play through us. And I think the problems defensively, it was poor, but I think midfield was the biggest issue for me, because we just didn't do anything. We didn't try and clamp down on them. We didn't produce anything going forward. We were too far up the pitch, which you've not really been able to accuse us of much this season. And I think they just let him go. And if you let a player like that go, I mean, the goals he scored, yeah, they're good goals, but he's not had to do anything clever. I mean, for the first goal, he just runs in a straight line and ends up scoring. On the second one, he just follows in a save from Sarr. And I think the goals were avoidable, as much as you're going to get put under pressure against a team like that. But we were just so... I know Cody got the ump when people said they were on the beach, but it felt like that to me. It felt like we were kind of going through the motions, and I just didn't see anything. And like Chris said, it was a brilliant equalising goal. You're thinking we could build on that, but we just invited them to play through us again. And I think they put 5 past us without ever really coming out of second gear. I think that if we had have got ourselves back on term, I think they had 2-3 more gears they could have gone through, and it could have been anything. And I don't think it is an exaggeration to say it could have been 10. I mean, when you look at the second half, I think they were just playing it out. There was they knew they had the more games coming up, important games coming up. The game was won, so they took it easy. But I think if they'd have really needed it goal difference-wise, I think we could have had a really bad afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, as Tyler said, we often joke it could have been 10. It could have been, and I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, Knocker. It was so easy for them, and there's you can play with pride and have a go, and you know what, but I don't think we're ever going to win that game of football. But they didn't even look like they believed in what they were doing that night. The goal was nice, that was the highlight. Got it in the middle, quick got it out wide, square. Dendoncker for a change with his feet, his finishing was good, got to give credit for that. But that was probably about it for Wolves. But
there's ways to lose, isn't there? There's acceptable ways to lose football matches. I mean, we're not going to take Man City on. Man City are £1 billion and a million miles ahead of us, so there's no disgrace in losing to Man City. But you've got to have a clear vision of how you want to play. I mean, we did it at the Etihad. We did it a few years ago at the Etihad when we had Adama and we beat them. And we beat them at Molineux as well. We just don't have that robust kind of anger about us now. We're very tepid, I think. We're very kind of mellow. We sit in the middle. We're not going to bother anyone. We've lost a bit of steel. And I think when you're playing against a team like Man City, if you just stand back and let them dance their way past you, you're going to get hurt. And that's what we did. And we didn't react to the goals either, other than the first one. So just a real poor day for us. Well,
this is the one thing that I really found concerning, because we've been on trips all over the country and pre-season tours, Scotland and Ireland. We've done some ridiculous things, but this team under this era, since Nuno started, never really got slapped. You never really got beaten. You're always in the game. It was tight. Sometimes against the better side, you'd sacrifice the fun and you keep in the game. That's gone. It was totally gone, and it was a steamroller job. And it was so easy for them. They didn't need to hit any more than that, because they were just cutting us apart. But the bit that sticks in my throat the most, you learn once from, if Kevin De Bruyne's free, you pick him up. But he wasn't even having to run into that much space. It was there. No. For me, then, you sacrifice a bit of what you do and you put Dendoncker on him, follow him round, spoil it. You know what? You have to give up a man, but he's the most informed technical player on the planet at the moment. And we just stood there and watched him. So was there a good tackle that game? Was there a bit of bite? Was there any snarling? It was... Yeah, it was a nice equaliser, and we got that, and I was pleased to get that. But other than that, what did Wolves do, Tyler, in that game?
No, it was passive. It was tepid, like Mark says. There was, like I said, I can't remember really giving a foul away. I can't remember getting in their face. And like you said, I'd say probably 95% of Wolves had expected us to lose the game, and probably lose it, 2 or 3. There's no harm in that. They are so much better than us. But like Mark rightly said, we've beaten them a lot since, we've come up, and we had a structure and a game plan, and that compact team has gone. And we said, halfway through the season, it's not sustainable to keep playing that way. And we've been found out, haven't we, for the last third of the season. We can see the first goal. I mean, I was so surprised we equalised, to be honest. But then it was almost like the old United team, isn't it? The worst thing you could do is score against them, because you've annoyed them then, and then they just come and at you even more. So, apart from the goal, which was a bit like an old Wolves goal under the Nuno, it was a bit of a one-touch break goal, wasn't it? Which, again, we haven't seen for so long. Apart from that, I was taking nothing else away from that game. There was Johnny at centre-back, which had sort of been talked about, but that didn't work, did it? It just didn't work.
Can I just jump in with there, Chris? The one thing that I was really pleased with the team. I semi-called pretty much 8 of the outfield players, but I think the team was right. I think the execution was bad. There was so much that how could you play 3 centre midfielders and be so open? You've got 3 centre backs, 3 centre midfielders. You should be tucking in, take your medicine, bore them, frustrate them, draw them on, and then hit that break if Raul's going or if Neto's going. It didn't happen. I'm happy to play against the best sides and bore them with an inch of their life, because that's where we're at the moment. That's okay. It nearly worked against Liverpool at Molineux. It nearly worked against Man City away at Man City. Why didn't we do it? I think the team was good, but there was no desire to defend. Like, those 3 should have all been tucking in a line, and we should have been boring them, and then breaking, because that's what we've done against Man City before. Nocky, where's it gone?
But Johnny's not a centre-half, is he? I know that people have been speaking about he can play in a 3, but he's not going to play there.
If he's got 3 holding midfielders in front of him, one of them should be protecting him. It was just left wide open.
Yeah, I mean, there was massive gaps between the lines, weren't there? That was the big issue. We had massive gaps between the lines. I didn't see your big players playing. Neves didn't track back. I thought the players who can. Quiet. He was really poor. The players who can make a real impact in the game didn't make an impact on the game. And if you're going to get anything against a team like that, everyone's got to be on song, and they weren't. And we got caught out as a result of it. But I mean, I was pretty nonplussed about it. I didn't think we'd win the game. I didn't think we'd get slapped. I thought it would be a better performance than that. But on their day, they can do that to anyone. You know, they've hit 4s and 5s on a regular basis. They've done that to much better teams than us. But I do think we should have made it a little bit more difficult for them. We were very easy to play against them. We were
soft, weren't we? We were
very soft. Yeah, we didn't want to be there. That's the feeling I got. The lads just didn't really want to be there. It was a case of we'll go through the motions, we'll get off, and holidays around the corner. That's how it felt to me.
It's felt like that for a while, to be honest, Knocker. But this is episode 31 of the Wolves Report with Chris Tyler, Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester. We record the show live for anyone listening back, but the comments that you guys put on the show, we put up on the screen. I won't always say them, mate, because if they're in the middle of a conversation. But good evening to Wayne. The band's back together. Yes, Knockers. Someone else has mentioned. This is a good comment. We'll get this up. Knocker's paid his bill, so he's got his Wi-Fi back.
Blame the neighbours. It's a neighbour's Wi-Fi. So.
Hungry like the wolf as always. Evening esteemed panel, and Terry seems quite angry, but a lot of people feel this recently. Bruno, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. But as the main point of this, it's a live show. If you've got comments, I would love to get them up on the screen. We can't always comment on them, but if we can get them up when we're in the middle of a conversation, I will do. We also took some time today to get some questions down off Twitter. We're going to go do our best to answer those later on as well. Some really good questions to test the panel and get some thought-provoking stuff. We'll move away from Man City then, because I think we're all in agreement on that. But let's brighten the mood and go on to the point we got against Norwich. So for me, again, didn't really understand the team. I don't know how Hwang starts. I don't know how Chinquino gets dropped. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure they were minus 50-something goal average before the game. They're relegated. Neither team has anything to play for unless Wolves beat Norwich and they won at Liverpool, which obviously wasn't going to happen. This was a game where the handbrake could be off. There's no excuses in this game about it's not his team, it's not his squad. There are no excuses. This is the team with the worst goal difference in top-flight football across the top 5 leagues in European football. Yet Wolves decided not really to have a go at them. Knocker, start me off on this one.
I think you said it all, didn't you, if we're being totally honest. It was abysmal for me. I mean, people have spoke about, are we going to go forward to back next season and all this sort of stuff? No, is the answer, because if you're not going to experiment in a game like that with a team who've conceded, 76, something in that last season, you're never going to do it, are you? And I thought, to be honest, they could have been 2 or 3 up by half time. I thought they created chances. I mean, Pookie ripped us apart at times, and the goal was an absolute joke. He's been allowed to cut inside. It's a left-footed skimmer that Cody's not got close to him. I think Totti was the other one who could have got close to him, and Ruddy's been beaten comfortably on his near post. But you can see where the problems are. I mean, that was his 11th goal of the season, and our top scorer's got 6, and our second top scorer's got 6. So you can see where the problems are. But I just thought it was such a boring performance. It was so... We were more defensive in that game than we were against Man City. We were more sort of restricted and trying to stay back and try and maybe hit him on the break. Hwang, you know my feelings on Hwang. He's there for merchandise. He's there to sell shirts. He's there to push the brand aboard. Other than that, he offers absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned. For me, he's never in the team, but I thought he wasn't alone in being pretty ineffective. I just don't think we didn't look a very good side. Better second half. I thought when Chiquinho came on, I thought we looked a bit better then. He was getting the ball in the box. He was whipping it in from all angles. He was trying to create something. He won the free kick for the equaliser. But yeah, we were better second half. We did kick on a little bit, and a couple of good saves, one especially from Neto, and we could have won the game. But for me, that's a game where it's your last home game of the season. Put on a bit of a show. Similar to Watford, I think we could have hit 4, maybe 5 in that game and really give us something to hold on to going into next season. Whereas now you sit there thinking, well, we're going to lose to Liverpool, so what form are we taking into next season now? Because we haven't got a big gap between the end of this season and the start of next season. So, a lot of worrying things came out of that game for me.
Yeah, keeping on the Norwich game for a bit, Tyler. Sorry to do that to you, but the most concerning thing for me, particularly in the first half, Wolves could have been 3-0 down and Pukki could have had a hat-trick. That first half, he ran that Wolves defence ragged. Now, we joked about it, but Pukki has got almost double the goals of our top scorer. Maybe he has got double the goals. He showed pace. He showed intelligence. His movement was fantastic. He absolutely roasted Willy Bolly and Connor Cody. So much so, Cody was hooked at half-time, but why you wouldn't change to a back four then? He's also bell me. We'll talk about that in a bit, but this is a real concern for me. Have Wolves been found out now? Is it? Are they?
Oh yeah.
So this is a good point earlier as well. I just want to put this up. This is quite relevant. Sam says this team has completely lost its mental strength under Bruno. Now, I don't know if it's lost its mental strength, but it doesn't seem to be the desire. I mean, the one play you've seen, Toti Gomez smashing into tackles. He wants to play football. He wants to defend. He wants to win. Who else has been doing that? Who showed that hunger? There's a guy then that's got his chance now. A couple of last games of the season, might get his chance to force his way into the wrecking next year, which he probably will. But how is the guy that wasn't deemed good enough, that was on loan at Grasshoppers, suddenly come back and looks our best central defender, Tyler?
Yeah, it's worrying, isn't it? Because I think our two highlights the last couple of weeks have been Chiquinho, who's a £3 million kid from nowhere in Portugal, and Toti Gomez. If every jokes aside though, you'd laugh about it. If the other 9 players put in the same effort and application as those two, we wouldn't have had the results we had. And I think that probably tells you everything about this current squad for me at the moment and where they're at. These 2 kids that have come in and they're showing everyone else up. I mean, Willy Bolly, start of the season, I was saying, he's our best defender, we need to get him in. The guy's a disgrace, for want of a better word. I mean, for it to happen time and time again in the same game and have someone like Pukki, we made Pukki look like.
If you watch Pukki for the first time, then you'd be like, "Wow, we've got to sign this guy."
Yeah, like I said, Cody basically showed him inside. Go on, son, have a shot. Oh, you scored. I mean, the lack of application for me was startling, and on with Knocker, it was more worrying than the Man City performance. You can sort of take that, but that performance, like you said, if it was 3-0 at half time, no complaints. Yeah, we've got a scrappy equaliser, and we maybe could have nicked it with the header, but that would have been criminal on Norwich because they were by far the better team. And again, what was the game plan? What was the strategy? What were we trying to do? I couldn't answer any of those questions for you.
Stale, isn't it? It's just stale.
I thought it was a disgraceful performance. I thought it was that bad.
Yeah, I was more. Let me just bring this comment in from Gareth, and he makes a fair point. I said we never got slapped. Do you remember Burnley last year? Okay, we got slapped once, but sorry, I didn't.
Yeah,
I forgot that one.
You mean about.
I mean about generally keep it. Even if you're poor, you're keeping it. It's 1-0. It's tight. Yeah, keep yourself in it as an opportunity. It was pants down against Man City, but yes, Gareth, that I accept that. I did forget about Burnley. I probably tried to forget about that Burnley game, to be honest. But again, guys, how do we draw any positives? And as much as I love John Ruddy, those 2 saves at Cardiff, a massive part of our promotion season, solid. Probably a little bit unlucky not to start the Premier League because he was pretty good in the season we got promoted. But obviously, Rui Patricio came in, Portuguese international, no problem. But for me, and someone, I should have wrote the tweet down, but someone put a great tweet out, is if you're giving players sign-off games with 2 games to go in the season, you're treating it like a friendly. So how are you supposed to get the mentality to win the game? Now, I do like John Ruddy, and if he'd have come on late on in the game or come on Liverpool just to say goodbye, that would have been better, in my opinion. We all still paid our money to go and watch that game of football. There was roughly 30,000 people there, people buying food and drink and tickets to watch a dead rubber football match. Try your best, play your best team, win the game, give us some hope, get some form for next season. As boys, it's a worry, isn't it? I mean, there doesn't seem to be any identity. Now, in that game again, what can we pull with the positives? I did think there was a reaction after we equalised. I thought we upped the tempo a little bit then. I thought the football was a little bit better, but then as soon as sort of Norwich managed that mini storm, it went back to the insipid way of playing it's been for the last few weeks. So
you made a good point actually, that it did feel like a friendly. It was very similar to the FA Cup game that they come down and beat us in. It was very kind of stale and boring. But I think on the John Ruddy thing, should never have started the game. I mean, that result is probably going to cost us 8th. Potentially, it will cost us 9th as well. So we're not in a position to
What
do
was
that.
What you messaged the figure earlier on. What's the difference in money between the three places,
Well,
Knocker?
look at £6.5 billion quid, if from 8th to 11th, that is. But I'm probably being a bit nice, and maybe it's not like me, but I've got no issue with John Ruddy starting the game. He made a great save actually as well to keep us in it. So
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
I've got no issue with him.
This
if
isn't
it costs us
anti-John
£6
Ruddy.
million, it's an issue, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
And
we didn't draw the game. We didn't draw the game to John Ruddy. We draw the game.
No, that's right. John Ruddy didn't make a mistake, and that's absolutely right. But if you've got the mentality of starting the game, of going, you can have a game, it's okay, then I'm not all right with that, because I kind of felt from the last few months, I mean, maybe a bit harsh to say Arsenal away, but from sort of then onwards, I feel like we've been a bit lost, and I felt like they owed us a performance, something. You know what I mean? Give us something to go home with. Get us some form to take into next season. Show us you want to be here next year, or maybe none of them are going to be here next year, because it certainly didn't look like that. So
I think there's other players. I don't know. You're not calling him out. You're calling him out for doing it. But there's other players. These are still experienced professional footballers. Connor Cody, Ruben Neves, João Moutinho. You expect more from those guys going into a game like that. For me. So yeah, I agree with you to a point, boys. You're right. You play your best 11, you win the game. I've got no disagreement with that. But he has been a good servant.
I wouldn't argue with that at all. I think he's been brilliant. I think that championship winning season, he was fantastic. The Cardiff one's going to live long in the memory. I just wonder, does Jose Sarr get beat for that goal? Does he get done at his near post like that? Obviously, it's hindsight, isn't it? And maybe one of Pookie's one-on-ones does beat Sarr, but I just think you're leaving yourself open for a bit of criticism in terms of if you don't win that game and you've made that selection, you're open.
But like you said, boys, we shouldn't even be talking about it. Like you said, they've got a minus 56 goal difference. We've scored one goal against them in 3 games. It's embarrassing.
The biggest thing for me, though, it's the intent. It's the desire to go and win the game. Who was taking responsibility? Where was the attacking football? What's happened? Are these players not playing for the manager now? Are half of them not there? We are slipping away, but this is a good question. Hydra and his guard, Evening Pal. Is there 11 players at the club that want to be staying next season? I'm not so sure. If you're judging on the last 2 months, I mean, Bruno got a lot of credit in the bank for some sexy football at the start and then a really good run of football. But now it doesn't look like the players are playing for the manager. It doesn't look like the manager. To be honest, the manager's massively concerning me. But yeah, great question, Hydra, and thank you for joining us as always. But I've got to say, and I think you said it, Knocker, I was more disappointed with the Norwich performance than the Man City one, because I think it always hurts more when you expect to win. Now, I wasn't expecting Norwich just to come and roll over and have their tummies tickled. I was expecting Wolves to take the game to them and have a go. If Wolves had lost the game 4-3 but showed some intent, I'd be happier than I am now than drawing 1-1 in a game that meant absolutely nothing. Now, that sounds silly. I'd be happier to lose, but where's the entertainment? Aren't you enjoying your football? These people have come to support you in the club that they love. Where's the intent? Do you want to win? Do you want to play? What's the plan?
Did we have a shot in the first half? Neto put one over the bar. I don't remember their keeper having to make a save.
I don't think we did. No, I don't think we did.
I mean, that's not like Ryan said. That's not football that's going to get people off the sea. There is just no excuse for that.
There's no excuse, Tyler, for a game that only really means something to Norwich's pride, and they played like they wanted to win. They were having a go, and you've got to respect that. You got to respect that, but they gave the minimum I would expect from supporting my team. We didn't do that again, and I mentioned it on last week, and I mentioned it the week before. If players are going to get upset about being called out on the beach, don't play like it. Then look like you care. If you don't care, let a kid have a go. Because I mean, the last few weeks has been it's. The wheels have well and truly come off, and let's move away from that then and sort of go into talk about the form and talking about going into next season. I mean, yeah, I don't want to talk about Man City and Norwich anymore, but yeah, let's talk about the form and should we be concerned. Now, for me, just going back a few steps, if we start the season like this, Bruno doesn't make Christmas. For me, it doesn't make Christmas because we're in a relegation battle. But and it's true. This form doesn't end now. It's a blank canvas. The mentality. How did you change this now? Are you concerned, Knocker?
I think you have to be concerned, don't you? I mean, going into next season with potentially a weaker squad than we're going into it this season. Obviously, we don't know what the squad's going to look like, but you can make a pretty strong assumption that Neves is gone. There's a good chance Moutinho goes. People looking at Dendoncker, Lazio, I think. Saisi's going to go. If you don't get it right in this summer, if we don't make real positive moves with players who not just come in and be a part of the squad, they have to come into the team and make a real impact. If we don't get this right, then you struggle to see anything other than a relegation battle next year, don't you? But it all just depends on what comes in. I mean, we're going to lose Neves, but you want to favour off Uncle George for that. So, but whatever we do, we have to solve the goal scoring issues, because we can't go into next season with Raul and Silva. And my suspicion is Raul won't be there anyway. But we can't go into it again struggling for goals. I mean, no one's broken the 10-goal barrier. We've scored less than a goal a game again. We're not spreading the goals around the team again. We're repeating the same mistakes. And if we do that next season without Neves and without the players that we've mentioned, we have to be in a relegation battle, because teams around us are improving. Villa are going to spend. If Everton stay up, they're going to spend. Newcastle are obviously going to spend. The teams around us are going to improve. So if we're losing our best players and everyone else is getting better, and I think the teams coming up look decent this year as well, we're going to put ourselves in a real position. So yeah, I am concerned, but it's all going to be dependent on what we do. Have we got the ambition?
I mean, the point about the goals has been, we've not learned our lesson for years. We had Raul. We haven't really backed him up properly with proven quality. He's not come back the same, which is obviously not his fault. No blame on him. But Wayne makes a really good point here as well. Thank you for your comments as usual, Wayne. When Wolves weren't scoring, and I know, yes, Gareth's highlighted some other times when Wolves have conceded 4 goals, and they did. So yes, but on the whole, Wolves mainly stayed in games and didn't get slapped very often. So Gareth said a rewriting history, but not on purpose. But I think you get the point I was trying to make. From being a team that stayed in games most of the time, as Wayne says, Wolves have become easy beats. So it's not just the forward line that needs relooking now. It's got to be the defence as well, hasn't it, Tyler?
I think it's the whole lot. I genuinely do. Apart from the goalkeeper, Kilman.
I think I keep Gomez. I keep all the fullbacks.
Gomez, Neto, Chiquinho for the future. We said, didn't we? I don't got to be bothered if any of it has moved on. Keeping clean sheets wasn't an issue. Now it's become an issue. Scoring goals has always been an issue. And say it again, like we said, that's not a sustainable model for being a successful football team, not scoring goals and letting goals in. I think we'd all like to probably see a more open, expressive, attacking way of playing, because that's why you go and watch football, isn't it? That's what you all fall in love with and why we all do it. Clean sheets are great, but that's the dirty end of it. And have we got, like you said, those defenders that put their neck on the line, that, put the body where it hurts.
John Terry.
Gomez did it. Yeah, we haven't got a defender like that. Bolly spends half the game walking around looking at the clouds. Cody just shouts a lot. Sace has obviously been on holiday since January. There's so much wrong. I genuinely think there is so much wrong. I know I'm Mr. Negative or Mr. Glass half empty, but I genuinely think there's quite a lot wrong at the football club at the moment with the personnel. And I think, like Knocker said, it's a huge summer. And the other question mark that we all talked about today is, what is the calibre of player that we're going to attract? Because like Knocker says, we're going to be a bottom half Premier League team. We don't offer huge wages. We can't offer European football. If you're an established, good European footballer, you're going to have better options on the table than Wolves at the moment.
But that's a fair point. And this might ruffle some feathers, but if we went into next season with this squad without Neves, we're looking to be in the bottom third. Let's not make no mistake here.
Bottom three.
Yeah, literally. Jose Sarr has been nothing sort of sensational this year. And I know I joked about it on Twitter and people said, we won't finish 8th. And you're right, we're not going to finish 8th. But 8th, 9th and 10th or 11th, wherever we finish there, Jose Sarr is the main factor from quite sensational keeping. But that is not sustainable. You cannot expect that almost freak stats to be making ridiculous saves every week. I hope it does. I hope it really does, but I can't see it happening. And I'm in unison with you boys. I'm really worried. I'm really, really worried. Now, people talk about it being at the end of a cycle. I think it really is. Now, there might be more going on behind the scenes that we know, but half those players look like not only are on the beach, I'm not playing here anymore, so I'm not really that bothered. We should expect more from professionals, but where's the real heart gone? Where's it gone? Where's the desire? What's the plan? I don't know. I mean, this is sort of merging into should be worried. Yeah, I should be worried. So what we're doing now is that, so going to the next topic, is looking ahead and the direction that we take. We're in a real situation now, and I got a lot of stick for putting out that survey after getting pasted. But we need to look at the manager as well. Yes, they're not his players, but a home game against Norwich, I don't care if it's dead rubber or not, it meant something to me and lots of other people. You see your football team win regardless. And let's be really, really clear. I'd love Bruno to be a success. I'd love him to bring the more of the football we saw at the start of the season and to develop some youth players into fantastic players like he did at Benfica. Do I think he'll do it, though? I'm worried. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, same. And look at what happened at Benfica. He had a good start of the season or season, and he seemed to fall out with everybody and ended up getting the sack. And it seems like it's a similar run of events here, isn't it? We said a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? I said then, thanks, shake his hand and sort of part ways at the end of the season. Might be a bit harsh, it might be a bit brutal, but this is the most worried I've been, since we've been back in the Premier League. Like I said, the players don't look interested, they don't look bothered. Is that because they know they're not going to be there, like you say, Ryan?
Well, they're not playing for the manager. The manager not going to be there.
That's clear. You can say what you want at the moment. It's clear the players aren't playing for that manager. That's quite clear. And it's also clear that the manager doesn't have a structure, a style, and a way of playing. So they're big things, aren't they, if you're looking into the future? You want an identity, and we've been good because we've had that identity since we came back up. We've had the heart, the passion. We'd go a goal down, we'd come roaring back. And, we go a goal down now, you might as well go home. So I think it is time for change, in my opinion. But whoever does come in, they're looking at inheriting a squad that's probably going to be fairly threadbare, with your best players going and not knowing how much money you're going to have available to spend.
Knocker, what do you think?
I'll play devil's advocate a little bit on this one. You said you pay your money, you deserve, you want to see good football. Why would Fosun care about what you want? Because if we're being completely honest, if you don't buy your season ticket next year,
someone on
the waiting list will have it. And I agree with you. I think what we're doing at the moment is awful. But there is not a chance in hell that before the start of the season, Fosun wouldn't have taken top 10. Not a chance in hell. And they're not going to look at how we played against Norwich. They're not going to look how we played against Man City. They're going to look
to a degree, Knocker. To a degree, I don't. But
it's a business though. You're looking at it from a football point of view. If I'm a businessman, or I'm heavily invested in the business, I'm looking where's one of my assets? What, they're finishing 10th in the Premier League. Brilliant.
Okay.
Why not changing it on the back of that?
Let me just jump in there then. So if I'm one of the analysts for the businessman, I'll see that team has massively overachieved, down to one person mainly. We have been so close. Most of our games we've won by one goal. They've been really tight games that we've won. We've very rarely dominated a game and paced anybody for 90 minutes. It's just not happened. So surely the analyst would say to him, we're very fortunate to be here. You know what I mean? Very, very fortunate. Because if we repeat of this now, it's catching up with us now. Jose Sarr, he's brilliant, but he's not Superman. It's starting to catch up, and it's a concern.
I agree. However, the structure is we sell one of our better players off, we rebuild the squad on the back of that. So I think we'll get between 40 and 50 for Neves. I think we'll get 15, maybe 20 at a push for Adama. I think we'll get 15 to 20 for Gibbs White. So they reinvest that. So that will be the budget for me next year. So they're thinking it's the end of the cycle. We go again, we buy a new fresh deck of players, and we go and hopefully we push on to the next level on the back of that. And another way you've got to look at it, okay, we want to be a top 6 team, we want to be a top 4 team, we'd absolutely love that. The financial power you need to break into that top 4, and even the top 6 now with some of the teams like Newcastle, it's out of our reach. So what do? Do you think, all right, let's go and throw 200 million at it and see if we can break it? Or do we sit happily in the middle of the Premier League? I don't think there'll be an issue unless we're in trouble at Christmas, and then I think they'll move. It's just my opinion. I think that they will look at it as a whole structure, another rebuild. Because at the end of the day, you get rid of Bruno Lage, and I think Chris said it, who'd you get in? Because there's talk of Lopetegui, he ain't coming to Wolves. Why would he come to Wolves and say, well, there you go, we're going to sell Neves, we're going to lose Jimenez, we're going to lose Coutinho.
Unless you can
why on earth am I going to come?
Just one more
exactly.
Just one more thing, Knocker, on what you said there about them not caring because someone else will buy it. To an extent, I agree, because there's rumours of 5,000 to 10,000 waiting. I don't know, but it's great to be in a situation that we are. Hopefully, the stadium will be bigger to get more people in, because this is the best time of our lives, even though it doesn't feel like that recently. But what I would say is, to an extent, I think the football is important because to build the brand, which we're putting our name around the world. If we play boring football that no one wants to watch it, you're going to struggle to attract people. Yes, it's a pretty badge. Yes, we're growing things. Yes, we're getting players from all parts of the world. That's fine. But you do need a little bit of entertainment with it as well, because at the moment, and they'll see that, you're not going to get people getting up at whatever time in the morning in South Korea or Mexico to watch the game and go, my God, this is terrible. I'm not watching that again.
I think you're wrong. I genuinely think you're wrong, because Hwang Hee-chan sells shirts because he's South Korean and he plays in the Premier League. Jimenez sells shirts. Obviously, we know he's a top-class player. He's had a bad time, but he sells shirts because he plays in the Premier League. It's all about the global brand. I've renewed my lad's membership for next year. He got half as much as the international memberships. He didn't get free postage. The international memberships did. They got all these different offers that he didn't get because they're not really interested in us as a cycle, because we're always going to be here because we've always been here. This is all about pushing that brand abroad. So for me, I don't think they'll be interested. I think as long as we are selling out at Molineux, I don't see a major change.
One of the things that the club said, that was mentioned, and that they talked to the press when Bruno came in, was improving the style of play. So they've acknowledged that. I do think it's a certain thing, because
they also said we were going to challenge Man City.
Yeah, that's that, and that's very true. So again, I've been put in my place by one of my team, but that's fine. But what I would say as well is the more attacking. If you play a brand of football, the technically gifted players get a chance to express themselves more. Therefore, you're going to create better footballers. You don't create many exciting footballers you're playing boring football. If you play a better brand of football, the talent will shine through, and then you can recycle like we're going to do with Neves and get more money for them. But let's move.
You're right. Let me just ask both of you before we go.
Where are you going?
We're talking now about we need to improve the brand and that. Do you think we'll spend above what we sell the end of this season?
Yes.
Not a chance in hell. Not a chance in hell.
Okay. No. Before we move on to the questions, I don't think, and we'll just answer this now then, I don't think Bruno will be the manager by the end of next week of Wolves. What do you boys think?
I think I agree, yeah. Just going back on Nocky's point about, you both your points about posts as well, I totally agree with Knocker. We do it on the cheap. We're not spending any money. We're self-sufficient. And all of the good football men that were behind the scenes at the club have departed, haven't they? And not being funny, Jeff Shea, I mean, he's a comedy actor, isn't he, amongst Wolves fans? And then you've got Sellers. I mean,
let me just jump in there a second. I've got to play devil's advocate there. You can say that, and I think it's a little bit disrespectful, but I know what you're saying amongst fans. But what I will say is, under the guidance of him, we've currently had the best moments of our lives as Wolves fans. So I think he does. But he does deserve a little bit of respect.
Rimple, he had a good team. Them two have gone, and for me, he's a comedy act. Sorry, that's all he is today.
Yeah. Okay.
He's doing too many jobs.
So Knocker, will Bruno be the manager by the end of next week?
I think he will. I think he'll start next season, definitely. I'd love. I don't dislike him at all, but I do think we need a change. So I'd love to be wrong, but
just to end this section before we jump on some questions, I don't dislike him, but unlike even I'd say with Walter Zenga, all right, we had a relationship. I don't have a relationship with this manager. I don't know who he is.
I agree with that, yeah.
I want to be singing his name passionately, and don't get me wrong, I'll always sing when I'm supporting Wolves, but I don't have a bond or a connection. Now, no one, as I said, Foster and Jeff probably don't really give a shit about my connection, and that's and that's fine. But with I know Nuno was a special era, and that was that. But to step back to a guy who's less charismatic, and that's not his fault, but there isn't a relationship. There isn't between him and the fans. Where is that? He's had a year to build us. He flirted with us a little bit, and now he doesn't even want to dance with us. So for me,
I think that's a great point, Ryan. And going
Yeah,
on that again, it doesn't seem he's got the relationship with the players either.
Yeah.
It's obviously not just the fans, is it? If some, he's been very critical of people like Hoover, Trincao, calling players out. Wolves fans aren't used to that from a manager. And it seems that relationship's not there with the fans or the players.
And
I'm with you, Ron. It's a great point you make.
You make another really good point there. And just to turn it back onto Bruno, I like it when a manager takes responsibility and calls himself out. I got it wrong today. We should have done better at this, and that falls on me.
Yeah.
I haven't heard him once say that's on me. It's always throwing someone under the butts, and that's not. I don't mind. You if you say you've got something wrong, I don't think you're an idiot. I almost need after a game someone to take responsibility. This is what happened, so I can process it better. So I know you've seen the same game as me. Like after when we came out of West Ham knocker, we're like we controlled the game. You what, mate? You know what I mean? Things like that. I don't want to hear you supporting your players after a loss because you're lying to 30,000 people because that's not the game. You don't have to be critical of the players, but you can be honest with yourself, honest with the supporters because you'll get more respect, and that's how you build a relationship. Anyway,
I think
let's
answer some questions. You made a really good point there. The last thing on that from me is I remember going back when Nuno's first season, I went to Middlesbrough away and we won 2-1. And it was, we had 2 players sent off, and at the full-time whistle, by the time the whistle had blown, Nuno was pretty much in the fans, celebrating, he was pumping his arms, the passion was oozing out of him. I haven't seen Bruno celebrate a goal. The last-minute winner against Villa, just stood there and turned and looked at the crowd. You are right, there is no relationship there, which is always going to be a problem.
Right, boys, let's answer some questions. What I've done, I don't usually get with it. The time flies, it's gone again. We're on 42 minutes. We're having a good chat. Let's get a few of these questions up then. There's some real good ones here, so we'll try and go through as many as we can. These are ones I've taken off Twitter earlier today. I can see everyone's comments. I'm doing my best, but I'm getting hammered with them, so let's go through. Gary Winslow, thank you for your question. Target for next season, survival top 10 of Europe. If Bruno starts badly, how long has he got? Have 30 seconds on that one, Tyler.
We sort of talked about it, haven't we? If he does start, is it going to last till Christmas? The target would probably be a top half finish, but the realistic target for me would be survival. Wolves have to be a Premier League football club, don't they? It's no good having a Frankie Chan selling shirts if you're in the Championship, is it? So, for me, I think, like I said earlier, Fosun will just be happy being an established Premier League club.
Good stuff. Just on the end of that question, if Bruno starts badly, how long has he got? I know we're 2v1 on this. I don't think he's going to make it that far. To be honest, I just don't see it now. And I know we're going back on our ground and trying to answer the question, but I think I've seen so many tactical concerns and selection concerns, and this is just 3 blokes on a podcast that love Wolves. Surely the people advising Jeff have seen that as well. And Jeff, I'm not sure in terms of
Jeff's advising Jeff.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I know you don't like Jeff. I know you don't like Jeff tonight. So let's move on to another question. Antsy, do you think Bruno is a victim of the profile of the players we have? Something he has alluded to many times, or is he just not good enough and needs replacing with a more experienced manager? Great question, Antsy. Knocker, over to you.
Look, it's not his squad. We know that. It's not the team he would have selected. He wanted more players and he didn't get them. But there's enough quality in that side that we should be playing more exciting, more expansive football, and we should be scoring more goals under him. So it's not his fault that's his squad, but it's still a squad of very, very good footballers that he's not getting the best out of them.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, boys, it's 2 seasons in a row where we haven't averaged a goal a game under 2 different managers. So are these players not as good as we think they are? Jimenez has got 6 goals. Richarlison I saw has got 12 or something in the team. Is it the managers? 2 seasons in a row, not enough goals.
We're constantly playing handbrake football, though, aren't we? I mean, we're not giving ourselves a chance to score more goals. And if you're not getting the ball up to the front players, if you're not crossing the ball, if you're not getting into dangerous positions, if when you are getting into dangerous positions, you've got one player in a box, you're not giving yourself a chance, are you? So I think we're better than our goal-scoring talent.
We talk about the Semedo Doherty argument quite a lot, don't we? And I think that's probably what the question alludes to: the profile of the player. Very different
great question.
players with very different stats and outputs, but most Wolves fans would say Semedo's a better player than Doherty. So sometimes it's the system, it's the manager,
Well,
it's
absolutely.
the season, it's the confidence. There's so many different things that come into it, isn't there? Than just, he's a good footballer.
We couldn't play this style of football with Doherty because his main priority would be to defend and he'd get hammered. However, when he was allowed, because his timing of run was as good as I've seen anybody. Not the most technical footballer, but his football brain was off the chart for those runs. So, yeah, great question. And let's get one from Hungry Like the Wolf. I'll try and do this one. Hungry Like the Wolf. Raul, mate. Raul's time may be out and Hwangi's not delivering. With the Fosun's globalisation plans to build the fan base worldwide, see what you're saying there. Do you see another Mexican player arriving? That's a really good point because obviously we've built a strong relationship in Mexico. We love Raul, and I've got to be honest, I think Raul, the way he was sort of walking around the pitch at the end of the game, he's a nice guy. I'd love him to have a full pre-season and be back and find himself again. Do I see that as likely? No. Love to be proven wrong. But that's an interesting point because if we no longer have a player from that region, you know what I mean? Do you need someone of that nationality to keep the rapport? Great question, Hungry Like the Wolf. And I don't know, but I'd imagine if there's an opportunity to be had with another Mexican player because his time at Wolves has been sensational, and who knows what Wolves would have achieved that season if he hadn't got injured. But the memories, the times, the goals, that song is one of the most incredible songs to sing. So, yeah, great question. I don't know, but I think it's Wolves something we really need to think about. But, yeah, great question, Hungry Like the Wolf. Let's go on with Jay. Jay says, without Jose Sarr, would we have been in serious relegation battle this year? And has his performances masked the defence's frailties this year? Cheers, boys. I'll answer that one again quickly because I think we've kind of covered that one. I think he's massively papered over the cracks of what would have been an incredibly average to poor season. I'm not sure. I think the stats say he's probably saved us about 9 points. So we'd have been safe, but it would have been uglier than it is now. So, yeah.
Patricio was a good goalkeeper, though. I mean, let's not pretend he would have got.
But it was Patricio was suited to Wolves then because they were tucking with three centre backs with two holding midfielders sat in between. He had a bank of five and didn't have to come out of his 6-yard box.
Yeah,
when we've played football this year, Jose Sarr's allowed Wolves to play a bit further up, and our best performances of surprise come when Wolves have actually attacked. That's like Villa at home first half, Leeds at home first half. West Ham at home, those performances are when Wolves have actually got forward. They've looked good, and he's allowed us to play that football. But yeah, great question, Jay. I'm trying to rattle through these questions here. You can have this one, Knocker. Mike Allen, thanks for your question, Mike. How can we expect to be a regular top 6 side without plans for a bigger stadium? Now, I think I know you're going to start this answer off, Knocker, but it's all yours.
I don't think the stadium's as important as building a team. There's no point having a 60,000 seat stadium if we can't afford to reinforce the playing staff. So, yes, we need a bigger stadium, but for me, the priority's got to be the team.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, Fosun and Wolves have said they want to be challenging. I mean, I know Jeff probably got a bit excited when he said about challenging Man City. A little bit ambitious. Probably need about another £1 billion spent to be doing that. However, Wolves do have that ambition because every team has that ambition. It's not, you know what I mean? Brentford could say next year, I want to be top 6. And that's their genuine ambition. Every club has the ambition to do it. It's showing the will to do it. So I think, Mike, Wolves are in a situation, as Knocker and Tyler have said, that whilst there's a waiting list of season ticket holders, that they can charge what they want because people are coming back. But great question, Mike. Thank you so much. I can see lots of comments flooding through. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to host and look through as well. So bear with me. These questions are coming through. Good for you guys. Greg, thanks, regular contributor Greg. What do you think about Bruno's future? I think there's still a possibility he'll be sacked after Sunday, or if not, will he be given the assurances that, or if he's not given the transfer assurances, he will even walk. Tyler, I think we've covered that a little bit, but what are your thoughts on Greg's question?
Yeah, it's a fair point, isn't it? He's obviously made a couple of noises, in the transfer windows about what he wants, but then he's been very quickly quieting down, hasn't he? Which again sort of raises some alarm bells. Is he a bit of a yes man? is he going into the board with these demands? Are they unrealistic? Are they realistic? We don't know obviously what goes on behind the scenes, but he starts the window saying we need 3 or 4 players. We don't sign any, and then it's like, yeah, no, I'm happy with the squad. So he can't be fully happy with the situation of what he's been dealt this season. So works both ways. I think it's a great question. I personally agree with you, Ryan. I don't think he'll be there past the end of this season. So that probably doesn't really need to answer the second part of it, because I think he'll be pushed before he can walk, maybe.
Absolutely. And just a special mention out to Greg. He's been following and supporting us, the podcast, on social media and on the shows and some of the live spaces as well. So yeah, Greg, you've been supporting us from the beginning, and it really is appreciated, and your contribution. So thanks very much, mate. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Cheers, Greg. Moving on to Ben Golding, great question. He dared me this early on. Great question. I've had to shorten it a little bit, but yeah, great question. With a big summer ahead for Wolves, do you worry the agents of players are reluctant to work with Wolves over worry they could lose their clients to George Mendes? It's such a good question. I think Doherty and Adama both switch from there. So do you think agents will be worried about dealing with Wolves? Which one of you two wants this puppy?
Knocker.
Knocker is yours.
We're getting all the belters here and all.
Mate, you shouldn't have switched your phone off for 2 weeks.
I'll pretend I can't hear you again. I don't think so, particularly. I don't think it would really work like that. No, I don't think so. I think the client is a client, isn't it? There's always a likelihood they're going to move on. They want the best deals, they want the best moves, and predominantly if the player wants the move, whether it's with Wolves or away from Wolves, your agent's going to facilitate that. Whether he's, going to push it or not is irrelevant. So I don't think that'll be a concern.
But do you think?
I agree with you, Knocker. But then I'd also say that obviously we've had the best of the Mendes relationship and agreement.
We need more of that.
We haven't really had anything for a couple of years now, and he's obviously now going to be motivated in moving on the better players to their next level of career, which is the model that we brought into. So I agree with Knocker. I wouldn't necessarily say it impacts it, but we need to see if we are going to stick with Mendes, the one we saw a couple of years ago, rather than the one that we've seen recently, don't we, really?
I think it's a merry-go-round, isn't it? I think as players improve, they will look automatically to an agent like Mendes, because he's the one who's going to push you to that next level.
You've only got to look at Diogo Jota, the path he's taken, and a reasonable unknown coming to the UK, a successful Porto player. There's on loan at, I think he was on loan at Atletico for a bit. There's transfer there for a little bit. Come to a successful championship season, 2 or 3 good years in the Premier League. Boom, move to one of the biggest clubs going. So there is. I think there's an attraction for Wolves because they can see us as a stepping stone. I don't want to be a stepping stone, but I would rather be a stepping stone to get a taster and make a profit than not be one at all. So
everyone's a stepping stone, though, aren't they? Everyone's a stepping stone to somebody. It doesn't matter how big you are. Look at Ronaldo, Man U. Yeah,
it's like
Tyler. Contract is going to go.
It's like how Knocker's treating this podcast. He turns up when he turns the sound on. We're treating us as a stepping.
You get those sort of players, don't you? The big time Charlies. They're too big for it, don't you?
That's it. Now I've got my new deal. I've put my headphones back on.
Look, even Harry Kane. If Man City come in at some point,
exactly.
Go. Apart from City and Madrid and Barcelona, like Knocker said, everyone is really.
A couple more questions, then we'll have a brief chat about the Liverpool game. Some great questions tonight. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, we'll keep the questions coming. Jerry, this might be a bit harsh, but it's let's find out what you guys think. Are we reaching the point where it would be better for Fosun to sell us to a very rich individual who can put as much money in as needs, rather than having to ask a board? Great question. But I mentioned this earlier on. I'm reluctant to criticise Fosun in many aspects because I am incredibly grateful. I never thought I would see Wolves at Wembley or in Europe. So, but on the flip side, I'm still ambitious. Now, there is a danger, and it does not, money thrown at it doesn't always mean success. Often it does, because you can attract better players. But many a wealthy club that have thrown ridiculous money. I mean, look at Everton. I know they've won tonight, but look at Everton. They have thrown an obscene amount of money, and until the penultimate game of the season, they've been in a relegation battle. So it doesn't always guarantee. Would I want, at the moment, Jerry, I think I'm happy with Fosun, and I want to see where where the next part of the journey is. Let's reassess. Because you know what? Sometimes it's better the devil you know. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree entirely. Sorry, mate. You go, Chris.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I agree with you, but I also agree with the question, because a lot of the time, if you want to go on to the next level, it's about having that individual that is passionate and wants to do it. Whereas obviously we've got a group of companies, like Knocker says, where we are one of them and we're an investment opportunity for them, so they want it to do well. They don't really care. Like I said, if we finish 4th, 5th, or 6th, really. And I think to get to that level, you need that passionate single owner, really. So I think it's a great question. But yeah, I'm with you. You know, there's nothing to say that they can't stay around for a bit longer. Great
question. Let's move on to the last question then before we talk about what's going to happen on Sunday. Mark Poulton, thanks for your question, Mark, off Twitter. How would you like to see the Traoré situation played out this summer? New deals sold or contracts run down? I'll start off on this one. I've been one of Adama's biggest flag wavers, and if he could come back and sign a new deal, I would welcome him back, because, oh my God, have we missed somebody to entertain us and to create something and just do something, take the ball forwards, because it's sideways so much now. At least Adama would frustrate, but at least he would take the ball up the pitch. For me, I mean, how would I like it played out? I'd like him to sign a new deal and get balls in the box next season to try and make us entertain and win football games again. How do I think it'll play out? I think he'll be sold. Or I think you'll go on the Bosman. Tyler?
How would I like it? Yeah, I'd like a new deal and he stays and plays for Wolves. Realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. What are you going to get from him, like Knocker says, 10, 15
yeah.
When there's a year left? I mean, it's almost negligible, isn't it, with the money in the Premier League? So would you be better getting a season out of him if he's happy to do that, potentially?
And with the way, though, he puts himself in the shop window. If he has an absolute blinder, and if he says, I'm going to leave at the end of this, but I'm going to try my heart out, I'd almost want that, because that way...
10 million, no, it's a no-brainer.
If we're happy to slide down and not try against Norwich and lose 10 million and 6 million, that we can lose 10 million and losing a free transfer. Knocker?
I'd love him to sign a new deal with a nice big fat release clause in it. My suspicion is they won't let him run the contract down because they're an investment company. They won't want to lose that asset financially. So I assume they will sell him. That'll be my assumption on him.
Yeah.
Great question, Mark. Thanks so much, everyone, for your questions tonight. The comments have been coming in from Facebook and YouTube. I'm trying to manage them and the questions at the same time, but I hope you've enjoyed the pick of the questions off Twitter tonight. I wanted to give Twitter a bit more attention because I asked for questions and don't get a chance to read them out and ask the panel. So we've got 2 minutes left. Let's keep it really brief. Liverpool, for me, boys, it's damage limitation. Don't embarrass yourself. Keep it tight. But I mean, that's ambitious, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a massacre, to be honest. I don't see anything other than a 4, 5, 6-0 job.
Positivity, love it. Well, it's true, though, isn't it?
I don't think we'll get hammered purely because they've got the Champions League coming up. So I think if they do get into a comfortable lead, I think they'll probably start taking a few players off. And they've got a few concerns anyway. So I think we'll lose the game, but I don't think it will be a 5 again. I mean, anyway.
In reality, the league's gone, hasn't it? So the league's gone. So if for some bizarre reason Wolves decide they're not on the beach because they have been and they fancy a scrap, I don't think Liverpool are going to want to get involved with that, because a pointless game against Wolves to potentially miss the Champions League final. If Wolves are aggressive, you know what? They might make it entertaining for us, but I don't see. I haven't seen any heart v Norwich, not much v Man City. A little bit.
That's what I'm going off. Yeah, that's what I'm going off.
It's hard to be positive. We've got about 30 seconds left, boys. So just bearing in mind, after this week, by the way, we're going to do an end of season special. Hopefully, get another guest on and talk from there. But boys, just quickly, first score and score prediction, Tyler. You've lost Tyler.
Hey!
We lost you. Quick, we lost you.
I'm trying to make Knocker feel better. If you ask me what the prediction is, I'll say...
Got 30 seconds. Got 20 seconds. Go, son.
4-0.
Knocker.
2-0 Jota.
Well, you know what? I don't believe a word that's coming out of my mouth, but I'm going to go 1-0 Wolves. Raul Jimenez. This has been
on COVID, isn't it?
This has been episode 31 of the Rules Report. Thank you to Chris Tyler, Mark Knock. I've been Ryan Lester. Up the Wolves.